came out of the teva, tried to achieve that level through drinking, but it didn't work. Actually, Shea Staub says that all substance addiction is self-destructive, not coincidental. The whole point of having an addiction is to destroy the self. He makes it into a very high madriga. Anyone who takes drugs is because he doesn't want to be a yesh. He wants to destroy his yeshes. Probably because it's out of control. But the whole idea of an addiction is, how can I kill the yeshes without killing myself? And that's tricky because you end up killing yourself. Not everybody can do that. So Sarah was the first person after Chava who was able to have the yesh without the negative side of it. Self without selfish. So let's see what it says in Eis Vov. Yesh Vayihyu ze al pi ma shekosa b'hamaamer de b'malchus yeshnam shnei inyonim hafchim. You just have to notice that whenever the Rebbe says yesh levayir or yesh leimar, he's saying something that isn't written anywhere. Otherwise, he would quote it. So the chidushim that the Rebbe adds is always introduced as yesh leimar, yesh levayir. So he's saying yesh levayir al pi ma shekosav b'hamaamer. Not the Maamer explains it. The Rebbe is going to explain it based on the Malchus Yeshnam Shnei Inyonim Hafchi. In Malchus we find two opposites. The Inyan HaMelucha Hu Hagbo V'Hisnasus, which is Bechinas Yesh. Royalty means superiority, head and shoulders above. V'Af Al Pikein HaMalchus Hu B'Tachlis HaBitl. And at the same time, it is also completely bottled. Umevayeh, shahabitl de malchus umitzad shorsha biradlo. The bitl of malchus comes from its origins, which is radlo. Radlo basically means higher than ishtalshalas. Before there are 10 sviras, there's Kesser, and in Kesser there are a number of madregas, but the point of it is Radlo means higher than Ishtalshalos. Like Chachma before it's Chachma. Shelochein habitl shelo hu bitl be'etzem. And that's why the bitl of Malchus is an essential bitl. Ubebitl be'etzem, and where the bitl is essential, gam hayesh hu bebitl. Bebitl. So it doesn't mean that Malchus is bottled to its shirish, to Radlo. Malchus is bitl because it comes from a place where there is no yeshes. In Radlo, there's no yeshes.
Agbovis nasus, it's not yeshes.
Yeah, but that's the chiddush. That because it comes from a place where there is no yeshes, even when it comes down and becomes malchus, say the ishtalshalos, even there it remains bottled. So even its yeshus is bebitl. How is this relevant to life? It says in the Maamer, the Avodas Hashem, tzricha liyes b'simcha dafke, that you have to serve Hashem b'simcha, k'mei shekosuv, ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. Ve'ad shehasimcha b'Avodas Hashem, hi ikir godol. It's not a detail in how you do mitzvahs, it is itself of value. וכידוע פירוש האריזל והוא בתניא על הפוסק תחת אשר לא עבדת את השם אלוקיך בשמחה. ואיסא בתראה דזה שהאריזל זוכה לרוח הקודש הוא על ידי שמחה של מצווה. What gave the Arizal Ruach HaKodesh? Not just the mitzvah, but the simcha shel mitzvah. וכיוון שזהו סיפור בתורה שבעל פה מלושן הירו, הרי זה הירו לכל אחד ויחד מישראל. Not just to the Arizal. אלו שאף על פי כן יש זמנים. There are times and circumstances שהשמחה צריכה להיות בהלם. There's never a time when you're not besimcha, but there are times when the simcha is not on the surface. כמי שכתוב, עבדו את השם ביראה וגילו ברודה. Rejoice in trembling. The begilui hu hayirah v'aroda. So what shows on the outside, what is revealed, is the yirah. V'hasimcha hi behelim. The gila is hidden in the re'oda. Ki kasher hasimcha hi besgalus u b'murgosh. Because when you're in a happy mood, efshe shemizeh yoveh lahargoshas hayeshes. That can lead to the feeling of self-importance. Not good things can happen from that. In order to be able to have simcha begili. And yet be sure that it will not lead to yeshus. Only bittul be'etzem can handle simcha begili without any negative side to it. She'oz gam hamurga shalei hu bebittul. Because even when he experiences a sense of self, it is bebittul. Valderech hamavor le'il be'inyan habittul de malchus, shegam hayesh tahakbo v'hisnasus hu bebittul. You could argue that every bittul is arrogance. Anyone who tries to be humble is obviously arrogant. So even as they try to be humble, it almost feeds the arrogance.
Can't be a guy who's humble by nature.
Humble be'etzem.
Yes.
All right, that's what he's saying. If you have to have bittul, you're stuck. You can't completely get away from it. It's almost like that joke about somebody who said, "Don't be humble. You're not that important." You're bottle, you're not bottle, who cares? You're not that important. So even having bittul is a sign of something. So a person who is bottle be'etzem means he doesn't see any need for bittul. What is there to be mevatel? There's nothing there. That's called bittul be'etzem. So the Rebbe says in Rosh Hashanah Maamer, Rosh Hashanah that comes out on Shabbos, you don't blow shofar. That's in the world in general. But in the Beis Hamikdash, they did blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah that came out on Shabbos. Question is why? The reason you don't blow shofar is because the bittul that shofar brings comes automatically on Shabbos. So you don't need the shofar because Shabbos brings the bittul. In the Beis Hamikdash, the bittul is so absolute that even the thought of being mevatel the yeshus is like, what? There's a yeshus that you have to be mevatel? Doesn't exist. So that's why in the Beis Hamikdash, they did blow shofar, even though they didn't need it for the bittul. So the Rebbe gives the analogy that the king, when he takes off his crown, where does he put it? So there's a special shelf. He doesn't put it on the head of one of his ministers. Because, you put a crown on some guy, he starts to get ideas. Even though the minister is bottle, but if you put a crown on him, it's like, maybe. But a shelf has no such machshavas. You can put the crown on the shelf and it doesn't do any damage whatsoever. In the Beis Hamikdash, the bittul is like that of a shelf. So there, blow shofar. Why not?
When the shofar was blown on Shabbos inside the Beis Hamikdash, that's on the level of Rabbah. Is that what we're referring to? That's what...
Or Malchus, even after it comes out of it. Yeah?
Moshe had a bittul of the crown.
You can put the crown on him and he remains the most humble. In other words, there's a level of bittul that doesn't need bittul. There's nothing to deny. There's a story about somebody, times of the Rebbe Rashab, Psarov, forget who it was, one of the Bavitcher Rabbanim. He came for Pesach to the Rebbe Rashab, and he said that there's a shaila that the glue that is used in making the cigarettes on the paper of the cigarette may be a little bit chametzik, maybe. So when he said that to the Rebbe Rashab said, a pity, because now I won't have the Einig Yontif. Because I enjoy the cigarette. Now I won't be able to. So somebody said, so skafje. A bocher. They threw him out of yeshiva. Why? Skafje by a Rebbe. What does skafje mean? You have your Yetzer Hara, you have your Yeshus, you have your Nefesh HaBahamis, and if you feed it, it gets worse. So the more you starve it, the more you deny it, the more you weaken it. So a Rebbe has to have skafje. as if there's something negative that if you feed it, it will get out of control. So in the same way, to say, oh, the Rebbe was very humble, it's an insult. The Rebbe had no gaiva. It's almost as bad as saying, the Rebbe doesn't lie. Great. That's what makes him a Rebbe. If you don't lie, you're a Rebbe. So when the bittul is be'etzem, then there is no negative side even to yeshus. So for example, when the Rebbe says, remember that sicha, even der balabos in Lubavitch. But who's the Nasi Hader? Friedrich Rebbe. It's not a contradiction. Remember my first experience of Malchus. It was going to Tashlich. One year, the Rebbe was, I don't know, something. The Rebbe was shining. He was walking at the head of the Talucha, and there was something. The policeman on horseback just sat there and stared at him as he walked by. Everybody noticed it. There was something royal that you couldn't miss. You couldn't, not every year. At least I didn't notice it every year. But that one year was so prominent, the malchus of it. That's Hagbo, Hisnasus, head and shoulders above everybody, and yet there's no negative side. That's what we see by Sarah when she sent Hagar away with Yishmael. It was Hisnasus, like, not in my house, get out of my house. You're not going to inherit with my son, in B'ni Im Yitzchak. And yet there was nothing negative there. There was no ego, there was no yesha. It was, and that's why eventually Hagar came back and Yishmael came back and agreed Sarah was right. And that's because when she sent them away, there was nothing negative. וזהו ההיסופו והחידוש דדילו הווחיין. על זה שזוכסו לחיין אלוהים. We're saying three things about Sarah. First of all, Shnei Chayei Sarah means these years were hers, dilohav, her life was hers. All the years were equal. Basmeya kebas chav kebas. And the third thing is that she was zeicha l'chayin iloyin. So, what is chayin iloyin greater, more than diloh havachayin? Her life was hers, and her life was very elevated. Ki zeh shesara nachsas v'salkes. It was because of her bittul shal yedei zeh zochsa l'chayin iloyin, hu al yedei hayira u bittul, v'lo al yedei hasimcha. V'lochein hamshochas hachayin iloyin shal yedei, that comes through nachsas v'salkes, behamalchus hu behamalchus k'mei shehi bebechinas aliyah u bittul lizah. What does it mean that her life was hers? she is Malchus. All her years, whatever the years represent, the 100 represents Keseh, and the 20 represents Chochmah Bina, and the 7 represents Midas. So her Keseh, her Seichel, and her Midas all came into Malchus, and they became Malchusdik. That means that the 127 years of life were hers. They were Malchus. So that's what it means, that her years were hers. In addition to that, she also was Zeichel L'chayin Iloyin. Her life was elevated. What brought the elevation of her life? The bittul. Where does the bittul show itself? Bechinas aliyah u bittul lizah. ובעבודת האדם הוא שהגילי שמאיר לי על ידי אבידוסי הוא כמי שהוא במצב דירא וביטל ולא בהמציאוס שלי. Back to in a second. ועניין דלא הווה חיין הוא שההמשכה והגילוי הוא גם בהמציאוס דמלכוס. כי כיוון שהביטל דמלכוס הוא ביטל בעצם, לכן גם המורגש דמלכוס הוא בביטל כנ"ל. Malchus is bottle be'etzem, but it also has the avodah of bittul. In other words, you can be bottle be'etzem and not do anything. Bottle, in fact, yeah, that's it. The bittul that the Malchus has is a form of avodah. Everything Malchus does, it does bittul. So one of the ways that it expresses its bittul is that it's bottle to the svilas before it. But that's not bittul be'etzem. So that brings an elevated life. Chayin Eloin. What brings the fact that the life is hers? That's the bittul be'etzem. The bittul be'etzem means not serving with bittul, but that all the sviras, including the zah, to which she is bottled in avodah, those sviras are bottled to her when they come into Malchus because of the bittul be'etzem. I never really understood, I don't understand, what does it mean that the Rashbi was in the cave for 12 years and he didn't need to put on tefillin? What does that mean? How do you not need to put on tefillin? He was on such a high madrege, he didn't need to put on tefillin. What does that mean? You would think the opposite. The higher you are, the more you need your tefillin. How do you not need tefillin because you're... And what does high mean? What does it mean such a high madrege? He was a big chacham. So if you're a big chacham, you don't have to put on tefillin. It means bittul. He was so bottled, he was so connected to the Eibishter, he didn't need it tefillin.
Through learning.
Huh?
Through learning?
Can't hear.
Through learning Torah?
No.
Just being.
It's almost like he didn't need That's why you do mitzvahs, because you need it. I mean, he didn't need mitzvahs. That's not why you do mitzvahs. See, the Chassidim who were in labor camps.
It's to be connected, so he was connected, so he didn't. That's why he didn't need him. That's because.
So the shaila is mitzvahs attack at tzafsa b'chibur,
Yeah,
but that's
so-
all.
So why didn't he put on? Let's not say he didn't put on film. Why? Because he was connected.
Because he didn't have.
Because he was
He
connected.
didn't have tefillin.
Oh, that's it. Okay. That's not how you started.
No, so the shaila is, how can it be that he didn't have? The answer is, and you don't. But the tzafsa v'chibur that the mitzvah brings, that's all there is to the mitzvah. So the Asad Love will all be connected. We won't need mitzvahs. If you don't need the tzafsa v'chibur, but the B'nai Aliyah, the godless of the B'nai Aliyah, is they don't do mitzvahs because they need it. For their tzamoin, for their tainug, they do the mitzvah because of the Eibishter. So what does it mean? Okay, so you're saying there was no chisaron in the Rashbi. The fact that he didn't have the tefillin, there was no chisaron in him. Aber if he had tefillin, would he put them on?
Sure,
Yeah?
you will.
For what? Darf nicht.
Mm,
For the mitzvah. Not what he needs it. I don't know. Maybe that's why when he came out of the cave, he was destroying the world. And he had to go back for a year. The shuv. So all the chassidim who for 8 years, 10 years, 20 years didn't have tefillin, didn't have lulav and esrog, didn't have a shefer. Muchkin brothers, 20 years. Lezer Nanis. I was reading this book about him, a children's book. It said 20 of his 100 years were spent in jail. 20 years in jail lives to be 100. But 20 years without film. Not his fault. So it must be that he didn't need it. And the Rebbe said to these people, many of them, that the years that he sat don't count. What do you mean they don't count? You're not missing tefillin. If the 20 years count, then it's 20 years without tefillin. Which is kind of shocking. The 20 years don't count. So the fact that there was no tefillin, ועל פי זה יש לבאר מיילוס האחדוס של המיילום הסחלקוס דשני חיי שרה שלא נאמר בהם מספר על האחדוס דמאיר שנה לושן יחיד. He said before, Meir Shana is kind of grammatically incorrect. Meir Shanim, not Meir Shana. So you're saying 100, but you're treating it like it's one. Esrim Shana, 20 should be years, but it says Shana, not years. So the Rebbe says that there were 100 years, but they were all the same. the entire 100 years was not broken down into separate. It was all one hemshechel, one reality, one. And the 20 years also. There was a bittul and a yichud in the 100 years and in the 20 years. In addition to that, the 100 and the 20 were not different or separate. They were also nisachid. So there's a bittul within the bittul. And yet, it says, Shnei Chayei Sarah, not Shana. So first it says, she lived to be 127. Then it says, Yemei Chayei Sarah, Shnei Chayei Sarah. And it doesn't say 120 and 7. So there's the experience of having 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. And then there's the experience that it doesn't break down into those numbers at all. It's all one. Shnei Chayei Sarah without mentioning the numbers. But it says Shnei, which is plural. So here's what the Rebbe says. When it says Shnei Chayei Sarah and Loi Nemar Behem Misper, that is a higher bittul than the Achdus, the Meya Shana Loshen Yochid, than the unity of the 100 within itself. That the 100 is like one. The Inyan HaAchdus, Shana Loshen Yochid, Bahasvira Shebekeser, which is 100, Hu al Yedei Shebehiyei Sam Klulim B'Sharsham Einam B'Metzias. How is it that 100 can be like one, all united? 100 means keser. In keser there are 10 sviras, but the 10 sviras are in their most perfect condition, which means each svira is complete with the 10 sviras within it. So that 10 times 10 is 100. So Keser is called 100 because the Sviras in Keser are all complete. So when it says Meya Shana, that the 100 are like one, it means that all the Sviras, with all the parts of the Sviras, were all bottled. What brings that bittul? Because they are in Keser. Once they come out of Keser, they don't have that. Then they break down into 100 different pieces. So the bittul is because of the effect that their sheidish has on them. V'hachidush sheb'shnei Chayei Sarah. What is the greater bittul where you don't mention 120 and 7? The hagam shebemalchus hu his chalkus pratim. You're talking about malchus the way it came out of its sheidish. Now it is malchus in seder ishtalshalos, and that is made up of pratim. Ukiyadua sheikir his chalkus hu bemalchus. The separation of each svira as a separate entity is primarily in Malchus. Shalochein gam hachayin iloyin hanimshachim b'Malchus be'ef shehem dilo heim behis chalkos. Shnei Chayei Sarah. Loshen Rabbi. So as far as the Chayin Eloyin are concerned, even this higher level of existence of life will come behis chalkos. There'll be details, there'll be different aspects. Yet, heim behis kalalus u'behis achdus k'mei dover echad mamish, they become like one, and that's why there is no 120 or 7. Val yedei mizgala amitas inyan ha'achdus shegam haribe protim v'chulokim einay seisel achdus. you could think Malchus is really bottle because, like everything else, in your shaydish, you become bottle. It's like kibud ava'im. Kibud ava'im means they are your shaydish, so in their presence, you're nothing. That's the effect that a shaydish has on its product. Whatever a thing produces, that product is bottled to its shaydish in the presence of the shaydish. When it comes out of the shaydish, it doesn't have that bittul. So the bittul that comes because of your shaydish, that is not the ultimate bittul. It's not bittul be'etzem. And there, even though you have a lot of achdus, the achdus is also not be'etzem. They're unified by the effects of the shaydish. Like all the ministers in a kingdom, higher minister, lower minister, this minister, that minister, in the presence of the king, they're all the same. Technically, because if the king is in a bad mood, he can kill them all. So their existence is very flimsy in the presence of a dictator, which humbles them, of course. So in the presence of your shaydish, you are bottle. But that's not the bittul of Sada, because Sada's bittul was, even when she's not in the presence of her shaydish, her malchus, even when it's not in the presence of the shaydish, is bottle be'etzem. And therefore, it can be in Seder Ishtalshalush, which means it has details, and yet all the details are bottle. Which is kind of counterintuitive. How can you be a 5-star general and not a 4-star general, and yet have the same bittul? So what makes you a 5-star general? I mean, just with the buttons on the uniform. A 5-star general has more authority than a 4-star general. So he has more authority, and he's just as bottle as. How does that work? It's because it's beyond bittul. It's beyond being bottle. It is bittul. V'hinen is bayali'il. You know, when the Rebbe, in the early years, the Rebbe would go to the oil, everybody went with him. The Rebbe's going, you go with him. And the Rebbe asked that nobody should come. The Rebbe said, when you're there, you bestert. You get in the way. Accept Yudel. Yudel stert nicht. Which is an amazing statement. The most amazing part of it is that the Rebbe said it publicly.
Yeah.
Like, how do you say that about somebody? You're not afraid it's going to go to his head? And then by a Fabringen once, I remember the details. I remember the Rebbe wanted somebody to sing a nigun. So the Rebbe said something about the Balagolan. Something about The Rebbe said, a heche from them. You say that public. So that's another way. You can have, like Malchus has his snasus and yet bittul. For some people, you can say publicly you're better, and it doesn't do any harm. In the same way, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote, "Va'ish Moshe Onav Mikol Ha'adam." He wrote it, and it didn't change anything. V'hinei nizbaya li'il in Siv Beis hakeshev hashayches d'shnei hapirushim b'shnei Chayei Sarah d'lo havachayin v'kulan shovan l'teva. Those are the two pirushim in Shnei Chayei Sarah. What does it mean? The years of Sarah? First, it means that they were hers. They belonged to her. Secondly, that they were all the same. The fact that her life was hers, shehu habalabos al kol shnei chayov, you're the balabos of all the years of your life. Therefore, yecholte lifel shekulon kol shnei sov gam hashonim shebaovar Yiyu Shovim L'Teva. It's interesting, by Avraham it says, Avraham Bo Bayomim, with the Taich. He had all his days. Every day was, but it doesn't say Dilo have. What is the difference? By Sarah, all her years were hers. And by Avraham, he had all the years. This bittul that Sarah had, Avraham didn't have. It was only Sarah. I wonder when you say Yizkir, those who say Yizkir, you say Tia Nafshe Tzrura B'Tzrura Chaim Im Nishmas Avraham Yitzchak Yankov Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah. So Lamoshe, you're talking about your father. You say your father's neshama should be together with Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, V'Leah. So funny, huh? With Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov on this side of the Mechitza, together with Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Not only that, it sounds like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are together with Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. And you're saying that the neshama should be with them. And if you're saying Yizkir for your mother, say your mother should be Tzor B'Tzreir Achai Im Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov. There's no mechitza in Gan Eden. So it must be that there is something that Sarah had that Avraham didn't. There's something that Rivka had that Yitzchak didn't. And there's something Leah had that Yaakov didn't. And you want the neshama that you're saying Yizkir for should have all those milas. So Avram Avinu says, Anoichi Ofer Ve'efer. Yeah? Avram said it? That's bittul. Sarah never said Anoichi Ofer Ve'efer.
Because she was.
Yeah.
It's nicht given on Aveda.
Right. So you can say, but there's a mila if you come to it by your own effort. And, okay, fine. So each one has a mila, but there's definitely a mila to Sarah's bittul that Avram did not have. And that's why Kol Hashatem Alocha Sarah So the Rebbe is saying that these two Pirushim are not separate. Because her life was hers, that's why all the years could be the same, equally good. L'moshel, the bittul that she had at 7, she also had at 20. L'chayra, the years between 7 to 20, there should be some improvement. Gets greater. What have you been doing all those years? The same bittul you had at 7, you have at 20. What did you accomplish? The same bittul you had at 20, you have at 100? 80 years and no growth? Growth means something was missing, and with time, you got there. But when you have bittul be'etzem, there's nothing missing. You can't increase. You can't have more bittul at 20 than at 7 if the bittul at 7 was bittul be'etzem.
And in the book about the Rebbe, James' book, so the cover says, the formidable years, right, of the Rebbe's, people have an issue with that. The Rebbe became something, the Rebbe was building up to something.
What is the word? Formidable?
Yeah, I think so, right?
Just came out a new book.
No, the Jen biography, all the pictures and the.
That's starting now. Really, 10, 15, yeah.
That was the same at 3, and
Fifteen.
at 20, and at 40, and at 100.
Here he goes. One down second.
The Pa'ula and the Dira B'Tachtenim grew.
That their hair is that idea.
Tom, this is ridiculous. I was once sitting with a Kalavet. Kalavet. Schon weg. Ik ken het goed erzählen meistens. So, ich erzähle meistens von der Babischer Rebbe.
Where did you see him?
In Yerushalayim. You know what I'm talking about. No one but the bit. So, ich erzähle meistens von der Babischer Rebbe. And he tells me the whole story of the Rebbe. In Jerusalem, when the Rebbe put on film on the train. Oh, famous story. And erzählt das ich schön, kann gut erzählen meistens. But it's way before the Messias, you know? He says the whole story, and then he goes, "Och, hat sich herauf gearbeitet." It's what you're saying. What do you think? This is Maamer sich herauf?
What does that mean? He worked on himself?
No, herauf gearbeitet means mind that he make a career for himself. Like he
He made
yeah, from the, he was telling us story before the Messias, and now like he really built a career for himself, you know. He built himself up, doesn't he? That was
Now that you mention it, he came once to Seagate.
the guy, yeah.
Fundraising. With Gabe. So he was there for Shabbos. And he verbring. Yossel Zucker lived in Seagate at the time. And so he was surprised that he was not like most of the Rebelach. He was verbringing with them, saying, Mashiach is coming, and he's going to ask you what you do. You're going to tell him you sell shoes? Do something. It was good. Motzei Shabbos, the Gabe calls him and says, can the Rebbe come over? To ask for money. Went from one balabas to another. Yossel looked like he had money. So anyway, the Kalev comes over, and they're sitting and talking. And the Kalev starts by saying, he says, he was in pain every day of his life. So that chitas of that day was that there's toiv that comes from Alma Diskasya and there's toiv that comes from Alma Disgalia. The toiv that comes from Alma Diskasya is higher even though it's painful. So Yasel Chazes, that's all he knew. he quoted a few sentences and the Kalev says, no. Anyway, the Kalev was so impressed with Yosel Zucker that he asked him, Bet up sabrucha, I want to give you a brucha. Ask for something. So Yosel says, I would like to daven like a mensch. The Kalev over flipped out. He never heard such a thing in his life. First of all, what does it mean to daven like a mensch? You daven, huh? A young man's of beten, a broche, that he should be able to daven like a mensch. This is your father's influence. Anyway, so when they left, he said to the Gabber, Himmel nicht gesehen als ein eideler junger Mann. Yosel Zucker. Compared to everything else he sees.
Yeah, you know the guy.
Uh-huh.
It's funny when you know the guy.
Right. That's why I'm mentioning the name. Otherwise, the story doesn't. He hung around your father for a long time.
Yeah.
All the years.
He went to Brunois.
Got thrown out.
Reb Nissen said to him, I think you should go to Milan. I think you'll do better there.
Yeah, Ad Hayem Hazeh, he tries to look like your father. Tzarich lahavin hashayches the inyan zed b'dilo havachayin, which means shehu habalabos al kol shnei chayov im hamavur b'hamaimer the inyan dilo havachayin hu shegam hamurgish hu bebitl. The Rebbe said about the Frierdiker Rebbe that the doctors told him that he doesn't have any more years. But the Shveri given a balabos of sein Guf. He lived 15 more years. You're a balabos on your life doesn't include your body. To be a balabos on your body, that's a good on the. Anyway, so what's the connection? If it's yours, then even your yeshus can be bebitl. Yesh leimer habir boze, al pi hamavur b'makim acher, dezeh shal yedei tshuva me'ava, nase shini b'ha'ovar, hu ki shedesh hazman hu b'malchus. How do you change the past? When you do tshuva mi'ava, it says in another place that, what does it mean? You can be a Beinani anytime. A Beinani is lo ovar miyomov. V'lo yavu. So if he did an Aveda, then he can't become a Beinani because he was already. So the Rebbe says, you do tshuva me'ava, then the Aveda of the past no longer exists. And you can actually say, Le over miyomov. So since Malchus is the Shadish of Zman, time comes from Malchus. Ulamayla Yese, Hagdima Vayihyu Chayei Sarah. What is Zman means Shinui. That comes from Malchus. But even the fact that there's a higher Madrege and a lower Madrege is also an element of Zman. Like before Bina comes Chochmah. What do you mean before? Not chronologically, but in Madrege, Chochmah is first, Bina is second. That also comes from Malchus. V'kiven she'tshuva hu l'mayla me'ishtalshelus. Since tshuva is higher than ishtalshelus, and that's why it can fix ishtalshelus when you do tshuva. Shebe'odam shalochin hagilin shenimshecha yedei tshuva hu gili shalamayla me'ishtalshelus. In the person, lochein ein bo hahagbol is the over hevev asid. Tshuva can affect the past because tshuva is higher than Zman, so the past is not lost, unreachable. You can reach back and change the past. The Rebbe explained what it says about the Makos Borod, that when Pali said, okay, fine, I'll let you go, the Borod stopped. So Rashi says, the Borod, the Geblieben, wherever it was in between heaven and earth, it stayed there. What is the point of that? The tshuva of a goy can't change the past, can't undo what was. So it couldn't stop the Borod from existing. It just stopped where it was. It didn't fall any further, but it couldn't stop it and return it back to. But the tshuva of Ayid can undo the past. V'hagam shegam asiyas hatshuva. He's saying tshuva is higher than ishtalshelus, it can change the past. But even tshuva itself, he berega mesuyam shemugbul b'hageda d'zman. Tshuva happens at a certain time in Zman, which is over heve v'ozid. Umitzad geder hazman I efshesh al yedei pu'ula b'heve yiyeh shini b'ha'over. Why? Ki sibot tzrich aliyes lifnei ha'mesulah. You have to explain that also. You have to explain why what you do now can't change what happened before. Why not? If there's a hezbollah for that too. Because what's happening now is the result of what happened before. And a result can't change its cause. The cause is more powerful than the result. So how can you? You can't be older than your father. Why not? Taki, why not? So that's a question. You have to explain that too. You can't be older than your father because your father is the Sibba and you are the Mesubav. And the Mesubav can't have power over the Sibba. It happens in Zman, but the tshuva itself is higher than Zman. Loche nimshech al yodo habli gvul de l'mayla mizman gam behazman beharega de asiyas tshuva.
That darge that is higher from the Shtalshelus, that is higher than Zman. Over there is Siba before Mesuvav.
And you have to say, yeah.
Yeah?
Not before, but they're equal.
So there is Sibba Mesuba, but they're equal.
I don't know.
Huh?
That's why Gilgal can exist. That's why Gilgal can exist.
In other words, the same logic that we're saying here about Zman,
Yeah.
does that apply also to Sibba Mesuba?
Right. Sibba and Mesuba is all in Seder Ishtalshalos. Mostly.
Children is higher. There is no Sibba Mesuba.
Right. Oh, there's no difference. There is, but they're equal. Uki'ilu.
Says that the reason that tshuva I have is not mentioned yet is because it's the goyim of the tshuva, right?
What's the goyim?
That the Aveda was the goyim for the higher tshuva. Tshuva forget should be a sibba. Now we say that because it's not a sibba, because it's not a masuba, because the tshuva is not a masuba of the Aveda, that's why it can be much for the chet. Because it is masuba, that's why it can be.
But is that true? The Aveda is the Sibba of Tshuva.
It's not like this.
Yeah, you don't know exactly what that means. If the Aveda is the Sibba of Tshuva, how can the Tshuva fix the Aveda? It would be Mavatal the Aveda.
It's not just that it's higher than Zman. He's saying that in Zman it's higher than Zman.
Even
He's
when
not
it
saying
comes
just higher
down,
than Zman. Higher than Zman is a verstandige Sache. He's saying in Zman it's higher than Zman.
right. In other words, you can experience higher than Zman in a minute in a Zman. And the Rebbe's Masber, what is the Aveda of Chfiras Beis? All we know about Yitzchak, which is pretty meager, he dug wells. That's all you can say about him. The only other thing you say about him is that he was taken to the Akedah, which is not really about him, it's about... So what did he do his whole life?
Takes a long time to do.
Huh?
Takes a long time to take one.
Yeah, full-time job. Oh, the other thing is he had a lot of sheep. So I ever said, first of all, sheep means bitter. Like a lamb to the slaughter. So the Akedah was not just Avraham. But the Ikid is like this. Digging wells is a certain Aveda that combines L'mayla Mishtalshalis with Ishtalshalis. What does it mean, a well digger? The purpose of digging a well is to get to the water. The well digger can't make water. The water is Masa Elikim. So what's the well digger's job? His job is to dig and dig and dig until the Eibishter's water comes to the... So it's a strange combination of Avedas Adam, and the result is L'mayla Mishtalshalis. You can say literally, digging wells doesn't make you a better person. You become an edeler person if you dig wells. The result of digging the well is not my improvement. The result of digging a well is something the Eibishter does. So the Rebbe says the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi is the Eibishter that makes it. It's already existing in Shemayim, and the right time it'll come down. I've osuli migdash. Human beings have to make the Beis HaMikdash, the mitzvah. Mashiach has to build the Beis HaMikdash, otherwise he's not Mashiach. So the answer is that the Nigla, Mashiach will build the door. The whole Beis Hamikdash will come down, but without the doors. And Mashiach will put on the doors. So the Rebbe says, not only put on the doors, the whole existence of the Beis Hamikdash, L'mayla, it's coming down, is totally b'avedis b'aseinu v'avedisenu b'meshach zman hagolus. So for 3,000 years, 2,000 years, we are building the Beis Hamikdash. And then all of a sudden it comes down, Masa Elikim. That's digging wells. You dig and you dig and you dig, and you accomplish nothing, but because you... Then the Eibishter's part of the job comes into the picture. So you prepare something, and then the Eibishter does it. So the Beis Hamikdash HaShlishi will not be missing the Maila of Avedas HaAdam, Avedas HaTachli. On the contrary, 2,000 years in it. So that's the chiddush of digging wells, is that your Aveda can't produce water. What you're trying to accomplish is something that is Masa Elikim.
There is shaykhs to your avodah, though. Meaning you did something, right?
So it's a strange combination of Avedas HaTach and Masa Elikim.
There is shaykhs, or there is?
There is.
There is.
And this is what the Meraglim didn't understand. If the Eibishter is going to do it, isn't it hate? He took us out of Mitzrayim. He split the sea. He makes food fall from heaven. So he can do that too. But the Eibishter says, no, go alei Rosh and put together an army. Oh, we have to do it. We can't do it. It never occurred to them that there can be a combination. Make an army and get Reuven and Chatzi Shevet Menashe. That they should also come because you need the biggest, best soldiers. And then what happens? You blow shofar, the wall falls down. For this you need soldiers? You get one Baltic here. So did they capture the land? Yes. That's digging wells.
The Mizrahi says that was what Yaakov did with the Maklois, the same thing. He knew that the Malachim were carrying sheep from place to place. He had to do his part. But really it was L'mayla Midei HaTeva.
Yeah. So the Chidush of L'mayla Midei HaTeva in Teva, we should know this already by now. But the Meraglim couldn't look, either it's going to be a miracle or it's going to be... So you can have L'mayla Mehazman in Zman. So we'll listen to what he says over here. Gam behazman, beharega da'asiyas tshuva, uki'ilu sherega ze hoya mekedem lifnei hamesubav. Ki'ilu. What does that mean? It has the effect of something that was lifnei hamesubav. והפי יש לווייר השייך זה שני העניינים מדברים לו החיים שגם המורגש הוא בביטל ושהוא בעל הבוס על כל שני חייו. What is the combination of these two things? The Yedei Shahamurgish, the Metzias and the Gvul, is bebitl l'mayla memetzias v'agbola. Al Yedei Zeh gam behazman nimshach habli Gvul de l'mayla mehazman. The modern Zach is Gzeire el yenem lo yerde lamata in tachtenem lo yale lamayla. We treat it as if that's the original reality, and we have to change it. How is that the original reality? It's for Gzeire this. Where Gzeire is coming from? That can't be the original truth. It's a concocted that the Mailam Hazman can come into Zman is a big chiddush. It shouldn't be a chiddush. Fakir, Zman is a chiddush. In other words, that also the Heva and Ava are three separate things. How did that happen? That's the chiddush.
Noch einmal, als do Zman, als do l'mayla min הזמן, okay, בסדר. Als l'mayla min הזמן soll abgehen in Zman, that's the schwere Sache.
Good. The question is, how did that happen? How did it happen that it's a chiddush that l'mayla min hazman can come into Zman? Who made these restrictions? L'mayla min hazman can't come into Zman. And Zman can't be l'mayla min. Who created all these problems? Oh, so the symptom is the chiddush. In other words, be'emes, why should bli gvul not fit into gvul? Who created these obstacles, these problems? So really, what to us is a chiddush is really the original truth. And part of our problem is that these are chidushim. Tshuva can erase an avera. Wow. Oh, only tshuva may have? Oh. What is this? That's the chidush. That emes can erase sheker. It was a chidush. So la'asid lovei, ein kol chodesh tachas hashemesh. It's not chodesh. When ruach hatuma avir min ha'aretz, it's not a chidush. It's going back to the original. I think that's a huge part of Chassidus, is that Chassidus tells you, not the Chiddush. It's just like, why is it a Chiddush? Das ist doch der Emes. So, part of the Aveda, the purpose or the effect of Chassidus is, stop treating it like a Chiddush. Person who sins all his life can actually become a Beinani. Why is that a chiddush to you? Because the tumah of the Aveda is so corrupting that you stop it. What is? I think that's why the first thing the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya is sei nicht kein Tzaddik. Because a tzaddik doesn't have a Yetzer Hara. And people say, tzaddik doesn't have a Yetzer Hara? Everyone has a Yetzer Hara. Like, what's the point of even existing if you don't have a Yetzer Hara? In other words, the tzaddik is the chiddush and the rosha is the pashtus. Stop it. That's not emes. The tzaddik without the Yetzer Hara is not a chiddush. The rosha is a chiddush. Nefesh gesechtet. Bit me. If that's not, if that doesn't create a problem for you, a bit mehr, then your whole perception, your whole view of life, your whole you're all wrong. If nefesh kisechta is benichusa, you're messed up. If a nefesh sins, you say, oh yeah. Was yeah. How does a nefesh sin? It doesn't bother you. You don't know anything. You're blind. Okay. By David HaMelech, Kol ha'emet David chota einoi elo Torah. You don't know. You don't know you're coming or going. You know nothing. David HaMelech can sin. So somebody asked Rabbi Yoel once in a class. I don't know if it was David HaMelech or Moshe Rabbeinu. The guy said, but it says that he sinned. How do you explain that? Rabbi Yoel said, it says that the Eibishter sinned. Explain that. The Eibishter needs a kapara. Explain that. I'll explain the tzaddik. Why is our default position upside down? How can anything that the Eibishter created not have a Yetzer Hara? What kind of crazy question that is? The question is, how can anything the Eibishter created have a Yetzer Hara? That's sanity. To say, how can anyone not have a Yetzer Hara? You're insane. You're Einoi elo Torah. Because to you, Klippa is more real than Kedusha. So you're just messed up. If Klippa is more real than Kedusha, then what does Tshuva help? If Klippa is more real than Kedusha, what do you mean? L'saken eilo. You can't be Misakin. The Klippa is more real than the Kedusha. You're completely messed up. Say someplace that if a person doesn't do a mitzvah lishma, mutav leishalei lebaris, right? If you can't do a mitzvah lishma, go away. Go away. Go back and start all over again. Somebody said, you treat the Rebbe like he's God. You worship him too much. I said, tell me, what's too much? How much is too much? He has no Yetzer Hara. Everybody has a Yetzer Hara. You think he doesn't have a Yetzer Hara? You think that every machshava, every minute of his day, he's in touch with the Eibishter? Come on, too much. That is so insane. The question is, how do you have people who all day long are not in touch with the Eibishter, and then they put on tefillin? Thank you very much. So, the point of Chassidus is that a Lakus is bepashtus, and Olam is behischachus. That's the whole point. Otherwise, you're standing on your head. Your whole life is backwards. I was talking to some Bachrim yesterday. What is this nign? Somebody told the story that Mendel was sitting up with some, I don't know, Litvischer, right? He started singing. S and S. He sang it as they don't. And they all became silly. He didn't say a word. What is the complaint? Vozol mentones daven zu tun. What do you want? Soll sich davenen? The whole point is, go beyond yourself and do something. You want it to come natural? This is chassidus. Es and esse, because it's not a mitzvah. As daven sich nicht, because that's a mitzvah that you do for the Eibishter. You want it to be natural to you, like eating. Why? What about avodah? The complaint is not is daven sich nicht, and you have to work hard at davening. It's not the complaint. The complaint is, where's emes? Mitzad emes, you should be davening naturally and forcing yourself to eat. How is it that the emes is upside down? So it's not a complaint, I don't want to work so hard, I want the davening to be easy. That's not the point. It's not even a complaint about oneself. It's a complaint about the matzav ha'olam. That what's fake seems real, and what's real seems artificial. That's the complaint. Which is also David HaMelech's complaint, Be'emer elai kol hayom hayeh elekecha. What's that for Mashiach? You have to ask me, hayeh elekecha. Why is a lakus behischachus? That means that the world is messed up. It's a little bit of a danger. If you misunderstand, Chassidus says, if you go up to the higher madrege and you work very hard and you become a markava, then l'mayla me'hazman can come into zman, which is wow. That's not the wow. The chiddush is that a tiny human being can also be emes. But that's how it should be. But im lemada Torah harbe al tachzik teva latzmucha shilakach nevreis. Was hast du aufgetan? What's the chiddush? A Jew behaves like a Jew. Yeah, so that's a chiddush. And if it's a chiddush to you, then you.
How does this match with Dr. Rebbe saying, don't be a tzaddik, share about it?
Because a tzaddik doesn't have a Yetzer Hara, and you can't get there.
In other words,
But people freak out about a tzaddik not having a Yetzer Hara. In times of the Alter Rebbe, most of the people who were learning Tanya thought they were tzaddik.
so, and Dr. Rebbe wants them to know that they have a Yitzhak.
That a tzaddik doesn't.
So that they're not tzaddik.
Wie kann das sein? What do you mean, wie kann das sein? Verkehrt, wie kann sein, dass du hast ein Yetzer Hara? Who did this to you?
So the whole time
Otherwise, they say, what is going on in your life that you have to drive like this?
so the whole time he's saying you don't do it yourself, otherwise you have a Yitzhak Hara. And it makes you not normal, and it's not acceptable.
And therefore, it's got to go. Can't last forever. It can't. So,
Yeah.